Let's look at another example of solving by completing the square. So here I've got 2t squared minus 2t minus 5 equals 0. Now, first thing I want to do is just try to get t squared on its own instead of being 2t squared. So I'm actually going to divide everything here by 2. If I divide this left side by 2, I'm going to have t squared minus t minus 5 over 2, or 2.5. And 0 divided by 2 is just 0. So that's one of the great things about having an equation equaling 0. You can divide things out early, and it makes stuff look a whole lot nicer. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is add b over 2 squared to both sides to complete the square. So, reminder, your b is the thing next to your middle term. So in this case, my b would be -1. I'm keeping track of the sign. So b over 2 would be -1 over 2. Squaring this, negative times negative makes it a positive. 1 times 1 on the top would give me a 1. 2 times 2 on the bottom gives me a 4. -1/2 times -1/2 is a quarter. So I'm going to add that to both sides. On this left side, I'm going to add that 1/4 right here. So it's kind of paired up or grouped up with that other t component. And I'm going to put that 0 plus 1/4 or just 1/4 on this other side. If I wanted to factor this thing that I have in the red brackets here, I can. This will be t minus 1/2 times t minus 1/2. Let's look at why that's the case. But everything else is still the same. I still have minus 5/2. I still have a quarter here. Okay. If I'm trying to look for two numbers that multiply to a quarter, 1/2 times 1/2 gives me a quarter. I know that because I did that earlier. 1/2 and 1/2 together gives me that 1 in the center. So whenever I'm completing the square, I'm going to see that it has this b over 2 piece, this -1/2, show up as part of that completed square. I'm going to try to get this square on its own, so I'm going to add this 5 over 2 to the other side. In order to combine these, they need a common denominator. So that common denominator is going to be 4. Multiply the top of this fraction by 2 and the bottom by 2. 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. 2 times 2 on the bottom is going to give me 4. And I need a common denominator so I can add these together. This is going to give me 11 over 4. I need to get rid of the square. The way I do so is by taking the square root. So I have plus or minus the square root of 11 over 4. And now if I want to get rid of the subtraction, I can add this to the other side. So I have 1/2 that was negative on this side, so it's positive on the other side. Plus or minus the square root of 11 over 4. I don't know what the square root of 11 is, so I'm going to keep that piece as the square root of 11 on the top. I do know what the square root of 4 is, though. The square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 gives me 4. These have a common denominator, so I can combine them. This gives me 1 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. If you know the quadratic formula and you did this negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, you'd actually end up with the same answer. So completing the square is equivalent to using the quadratic formula. This is a process that we go about for doing so. It's okay if we end up with messy numbers sometimes. In fact, it's good that we have this technique because I would not have gotten this with just factoring. So completing the square works in situations where factoring would not have worked.